perspective, who has studied in Sweden. Let me introduce Alexander Hjertström, currently the CEO and co-founder of Airinum AB, to talk about his experience and give some concrete tips for the audience who would like to inspire and to take the similar path and learn about the benefits of working in startups. Over to you, Alexander.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me today. Excited to hear that so many potential entrepreneurs on this call. Also, shouting out my thoughts about the COVID situation in India now. Hope it will improve quickly. A little bit the agenda from my point of view. I'm going to go a little bit background and then tell you a little bit about the company, and then end up with 10 concrete tips and tricks that I think I've drawn as an experience from my last 5 years as an entrepreneur. And I'll leave some time towards the end, so please ask anything. So born in Sweden, and then started actually studying at KTH in 2008, and then actually moved over and studied business at Stockholm School of Economics. During my time, I was always kind of seeking the entrepreneurial path, like smaller businesses rather than finance and management consulting. Joined a company, a Swedish investment firm called Kinnevik, when they changed their investment portfolio from telecom into more tech and e-com, a company called Rocket Internet. And so my career actually started in Africa, built a company there called Jumia. It's a marketplace very similar to Amazon. And after that, I was part of 2 companies in Australia called The Iconic, which is Zalando, so it's like fashion online, and a food tech startup called HelloFresh. Today, actually the largest food tech company in the world. So my kind of first 3 years after my studies was really kind of in the e-commerce space. And especially emerging markets. And then after that, I decided I wanted to complete my studies. And while going back, finishing my master's studies, I got the chance to do an exchange in India, which, of course, probably the most exciting market of them all. So moved there in 2014, studied at the Indian Institute of Management in Ahmedabad. And I loved India at first place. Like, it's such an incredible place. I want to go back every year. But quite quickly, I noticed I wasn't feeling 100%. And I realized it was much because of the air I was breathing. So while I was studying, I sort of made a deep dive into kind of the data behind air pollution. And actually ended up building a website in India where I pulled the data from the 12 sensors, the 12 major sensors from the embassy, and sort of giving the real air quality image. And while I was there was also an outbreak of swine flu. This is back in 2014. And at my campus, a lot of people started to wear masks, including myself, something I'd never done before. And then I was starting thinking that the masks were not designed for end consumers. And I was there doing my MBA studies. I had all the chance in the world to kind of look into any field I wanted. So decided to do that and realized that, you know, what we breathe is a ticking health bomb. And it's a very important both environmental and health issue, but also combined with a forgotten industry and definitely a quite unsexy product. And that kind of combination of building a business with impact, but also that had a kind of good business case was the trigger. And so when I moved back to Stockholm back in 2015, I started Airinum. So that was a little bit short about my background, and just mentioning a few words about Airinum. I mean, we see ourselves as a health tech company focusing on air. We have one short-term mission, which is to help people breathe cleaner air. But we also have a long-term and probably more important mission, which is also to educate, raise awareness, and contribute towards a cleaner future. So our vision is actually to not exist in the future. When we've done our job, we should not exist. And the problem area is not only pollution, that's where we started, but now, as you can imagine, we're also focusing a lot on airborne diseases, not only COVID, but in general with globalization and urbanization, it's unfortunately a a pretty big issue. And then also the growing concern of allergens, which is actually exploding now with the climate change and the rising temperatures. And our solution is clean air. At this stage, it's been a lot about filter technology, how to clean the air, and also sort of package it in a way. And in our case, we sell masks that it's really kind of targeted towards end consumers. But not only being product focused, we knew we couldn't compete with 3M and Honeywell and all the industrial giants. So we've really kind of spent from day one, we asked ourselves, what's the most important thing? Like, how can we build barriers in a space where the barriers were pretty low? And I mean, it ended up being the brand. So from day one, we really kind of tried to build a credible brand. And we've been pretty lucky. We've had a lot of celebs using our masks, like Gwyneth Paltrow, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, 2 weeks ago, Pharrell Williams, and that's kind of elevated our brand to go from a Swedish brand to like a global one. And we have partnered with 1% for the planet. So 1% of our sales is also directly contributed to sort of climate initiatives and also sucking carbon dioxide out of the air or the atmosphere. So that's a little bit background to Airinum. And I mean, we want nothing else than the pandemic to end ASAP, but it's also great to be able to contribute, and WHO have been pretty clear that the masks make a difference. So in these kind of difficult times, feels good to have a product that can help. Now over to some tips and tricks. I was thinking, like, what can I share that could be some sort of advice in the position you're in? I think one good advice I got when I was in India was by one of the professors. He called it overcome inertia. And I think, the timing of when to start a business is pretty difficult. You have to consider a lot of different things. But actually it's not about timing, it's about a decision. So that's the first thing. It's like you just have to make a decision that you're going to start something and then just go for it. Because if you're going to wait for the perfect idea, it's not going to fall down into your lap. So that's the first kind of piece of advice. And when it comes to idea, I'm sure all of you are thinking about a lot of different businesses or already got started. But I think something that really helped me was to write down every idea and not wait, but like in the moment when you thought about something, it doesn't have to be a full-fledged business idea, but just some creative solution to a problem, just write it down. So you kind of collect as many ideas as you can. And I took one course at KTH, which I think was called like road test your idea. It's in the very beginning stage. And I think that's pretty true. Like, you don't know instantly if an idea is going to work. You need to kind of ask a few critical questions. Then I think another kind of tips is it's a perfect timing to get started while you're studying. I mean, you can utilize your colleagues. Like I did at IIM, like I just sent surveys and questions to like the entire network. You have access to the entire email database. Just don't be shy. If you don't gamble, you don't win. So just shoot it out. And then something that I was a little bit sort of careful of was asking for feedback. I was afraid that they would tell me that the idea had a lot of flaws, etc. But like, essentially, the more feedback you ask for, the quicker you can iterate your idea. So that's something like, just don't hide your idea, being afraid that someone will steal it. A business is never about the idea, it's about the execution. So just tell everyone about it. Then the fifth sort of tips I have is like, apply for some sort of startup program, incubator. We've been part of both SSE Business Lab and the Sting Accelerator program here in Stockholm. I mean, it's basically a system where you exposes yourself to opportunities on a daily basis, everything from just general know-how to technology, but probably most importantly, investors. So that's a good way to get started. If you're planning to start your business in Stockholm, like, use government funding. It's like the previous speaker have mentioned, there is a really good infrastructure in place Starting a business in Stockholm, in Sweden, has never been easier. You can get free capital from Vinnova, Alum-NII. There's a lot of different institutions, so you don't have to save up money yourself. You can be broke ass and get started. Another thing that for me has been really kind of, if I'm looking back at my journey, is kind of the balance of planning. I think, you know, there's this classic quote, not planning is planning for failure. And I think that's very true. I think a lot of people they're too eager to get started. They just want to shout out, and that's fine. And the kind of academic approach of planning too much is not good either. So it's kind of striking that balance where, you know, you build an easy business plan, you do a business model canvas, and you really run your numbers so you know what you're going to go for. But like they said before, don't make it complicated, make it simple. I think that's quite critical before getting started. And then another, maybe a bit more emotional piece of advice: think careful about who you want to partner with, who you want to build a business with. I mean, this decision should be as careful as your life partner. Everything is going to be easy for the first 6 months, 1 year, but when the business evolves, you have to go from friends to taking roles, and that's not easy. So try and sort of make sure to cherry pick and maybe bring in different types of skills. And then another piece of advice: I've studied at both KTH and SSE, and I think that the best entrepreneurs in general are engineers. But I've seen quite a lot of pitfalls also, I have to say, where too many engineers at the initial stage focus on the product, which is great, but you know, there needs to be balance towards a business case. You know, before, investors invested just in data and growth, and they didn't look at the bottom line. Today, investors want to see profitability. They want to see a clear path to profitability. So, you know, don't be shy of bringing some business person on board and really make sure that, I mean, the product needs to be great, don't get me wrong, but it needs to make sense in a business case. And then final, entrepreneurship to me is, it's a mindset. It's not a job. So, you know, being an entrepreneur and running your own business is, I mean, it's about freedom, but there's also a backstory to being an entrepreneur. And I think there's a bit of a trend today where everyone should become an entrepreneur. And I don't think so. I think you really need to ask yourself before what type of life you want, because it's not stability, it's not good money in the beginning, it's huge risk. But if the answer is yes, you have to go all in. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Alexander. This was great to hear. And thanks again for the really valuable tips. I actually noted it down. Yeah, so we have quite a lot of questions for you. Approaching foreign markets can be daunting and complicated. For example, the Indian market is notorious for its diversity, which certainly brings with a level of complexity. How do you approach these challenges?
Yeah, very good question. And I mean, for us starting a business within masks, obviously Sweden was not the market. We had to think globally from day one, and India was where the experience came from. So India was the market we targeted first. And it's surprisingly low barriers today to get started. You know, you just jump on Facebook, we put up an ad, and then I think we collected a few thousand questionnaires pretty quickly to just really understand the consumers. And then we also, there's a lot of foreign, both students and expats in the country you're in. So we were targeting the Indian community, China, US, etc., to get a lot of different test and beta users, basically. And that was one way to kind of think about it. Then to actually end up building the business in India has turned out to be more tricky. It's probably one of the biggest potential markets, but it requires for us nearly that we set up a subsidiary. But think to sort of approach foreign markets is also in partnerships. I mean, we could not be successful in India alone, but now we have plenty of partners in India, both on the logistics side, distributors. We had a massive Bollywood star that posted just a few days ago. So I think partnership your way into that market is key.
Cool. How could a network like NII have helped you out in the early days of your company?
I mean, I've been in touch with NII since the beginning. I think network was one, but then also really kind of road test the idea. I mean, for us, initially we were thinking to the go-to-market strategy would be India, but we kind of quickly pivoted. I think the air quality issue in India was really severe, and we were approaching it from that angle. But the mask usage was not mature. So for us, building a brand, we planned to go into India from the beginning, but we changed our mind and started off in the US and Japan and Korea and the UK. And we would not have done that had we not spoken really to our kind of network and NII friends. So I think, just having that accessibility to that knowledge so close was really key.
Mm-hmm. What is your expansion plan for your firm?
We're gonna grow big. But today we are 30 employees. We're turning over more than 100 million SEK. So we've gone from a pretty small company to reasonable size. We're not a mass company, we're a health tech company. So for us, we're gonna invest a lot now in product development to kind of build the entire ecosystem around air and health. We think this is unfortunately an invisible problem. So our focus is gonna be on making it visible, sort of taking what's in the air, turning it into data, and letting people know not just what type of air quality index it is, but rather what chemicals, what gases, how those chemicals affect different parts of your body. So by 2025, we're going to be market leader within the health tech space.
Okay. Would you consider evolving from a micro to a macro solution entity? As an R&D for artificial trees, we could install them in large scales, like in Mars. How do you want to answer that?
Wow. Difficult to grasp, but I think the key thing for us is the second mission. We thrive when the world suffers, and that's obviously a dilemma. So that's why part of our DNA is really how can we also contribute to a cleaner future. So we're looking at a lot of different initiatives, and we can't save the world alone, but we can take one angle and do that really well. And for us, it's really about awareness and education. And then we want to, with all our collabs, etc., we want to partner up with people that are really good at initiatives. And currently we're working or talking to one new movement here in Stockholm, that basically they have 3 different technologies to take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, and trees and planting trees, and particularly like bamboo trees, which can absorb 13 times as much carbon dioxide as regular trees. I think, all those initiatives are really interesting for us to partner up with. Yeah,
that's good.
Not sure if I answered the question, but I tried.
Probably we need to do a lot more of that then. Okay, how do you predict it is the right time to invest and expand your business? Because I think in most cases, people invest money and try to expand, but they rather fail, So it's all about doing that in the right time. So how do you know that this is the right time to expand my business and grow more?
The time is always to expand and grow more. Every single day. I mean, for us, it's really been like, how can we grow the fastest without compromising the brand? Then if you're taking it from like, when is the right time to bring in external capital, and how can you sort of supercharge your business, that has a timing. I mean, it's worth bootstrapping for a while, but it can be counterproductive to bootstrap for too long. So yeah, you need to have some sort of proof of concept. You need to have some sort of demand. You need to get a little bit of intelligence from your customers. When you get that and you put that into plan, the plan can go completely the wrong way. But at least if you have that feeling, and you have to trust your gut feeling, because the data is not going to tell you, that's the time to expand. That's the time to bring in money. And I mean, I wish I brought in more money quicker.
That's good.
There's so much money on the market. Like during COVID-19 now, all the investors, they haven't deployed all the funds that they were supposed to deploy. There's not a better timing now than ever to kind of start your business, because you can get a lot of money for just a PowerPoint idea at this stage.
Yeah. How do you identify a selling point to your idea? For example, how do you convert an innovative idea or research into a commercial business?
Yeah, going back a little bit to what I think we did well, was to not think something would work, but rather to ask the customers if it will work. We actually ended up doing a Kickstarter campaign just because we had some challenges in the supply chain that took time, and we said let's see what the world thinks about this product. So I think when you ask the customers, you get the answers, and then of course you need to put a little bit more flesh to the bones, but at least that's a good starting point. But you should not do products only what the customers say. You need to kind of try and leapfrog a little bit. If Steve Jobs had asked people what phones they wanted, they would not have said an iPhone. So, but at least it's a good place to start.
Exactly. So now it's time to move to our next speaker, but we have a lot of questions to you. So I think audience, you can contact Alexander on LinkedIn anytime. I think he'll be ready to answer you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time, guys.
Thank you, Alexander.